Welcome back to After the Ashes, our beautiful Altadena podcast, breaking down policy and everything else going on in wildfire recovery. By the way, we put wildfire recovery in like one of the first episodes, and I'm still like, why are we saying that? It wasn't a wildfire. It was an urban fire. Anyhow, let's get anyhow.
It originated in the wild.
Yeah.
And with all the bears and the coyotes and all the other animals
yeah,
now.
They didn't set a fire. I love one of the things I saw about in that story about the SCE. Oh my gosh. It was the thing from the SCE CEO saying it's quote unquote likely our equipment will be found at fault for the Eaton fire start. And one of the top comments said, well, it sure as hell wasn't mice with matches. I was like, yeah, no shit. I was imagining
that's only the
running
Palisades problem.
That's a Palisades problem.
Which I guess
Smoldering.
that's going to be, the video of that
is bananas. That one's a lot.
That's no bueno.
No, it's not. And there's a lot of reckoning and to be answered for.
It's amazing how both of these disasters were both avoidable.
It
was incompetence.
Yep.
At the leadership level.
And ultimately bad policy. We're going to talk about that. Bad policy.
Don't get me started.
We're going to talk about bad policy again today. So this is episode 14, which I'm calling The Sound of Neglect. We're going to talk about EFRU findings, noise ordinance fights, which has blown up in our group in the last few weeks and again today, and election choices, because Altadena has an election for its volunteer town council that is absolutely worth talking about.
I guess we're probably going to have turnout this time.
We might, actually. I mean, yes and no. It's like on one hand, no, because no one lives there. And then on the other hand, yes. But let's wait till we get there and we'll talk about all that. I think we could also call this episode No Policy, No Peace. I almost titled it that. No policy, no peace. Because, right, it's like at the end of the day, with a void in policy, with bad policy.
That's even worse.
I know. How do we go forward? I mean, we can't just sit around and bitch and complain. In the last episode, talked about the fact, using the example of Paradise, where people have actually become the legislators. They've become the electeds, those fire victims, because they had to, because no one else is going to do it for them. And I think, that is, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who emerges and which leaders continue to emerge in Altadena and where they go with these things. Because
there was a piece in...
It's time.
What was it? I think I wrote about it the other day on the Substack. Oh, the Liberal Patriot. It was on the 27th. And they were talking about Graham Plattner, the candidate, the oyster farmer from Maine. Since you were up there, you probably heard about him.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea was, it's about back to the idea of how it's not surprising to see the Paradise people moving their way into politics, because they are the ones that sympathize with. Right now, that's a huge component. Like, that's what's missing, that authenticity, like that. I don't want to say shared experience, because I don't think shared experience is the right term, but this idea that, people feel like government's not meeting the need of the moment.
Right.
And people who have been affected by it are more passionate about it, more articulate about it, and more capable of potentially, at least it's resonating with the voters. And that was what the piece was. It was my authenticity in candidates matter, something I keep talking about more and more. So that's all I keep hearing about. Anyways,
it's true.
And so when you were talking about the idea of the folks in Paradise, it resonates. And I think it'll be very interesting to see the bumper crop coming out of Altadena as well.
Yeah, both for 26 and for 28, as things come up and see what happens, especially as, this has been a heavy litmus test for a lot of our new electeds, and whether or not they pass that, we're going to find out, especially in 28. We're really going to find out. So, with that, we have our own little local election coming up. And I say our own little local election because, historically, people have not even realized that we have a town council, because it is a volunteer advisory body that, if I'm being entirely, frank, it just has not been very effective historically.
Well, it wasn't meant to be effective. It was supposed to be advisory.
Correct.
It got elevated because of this fire, because everybody was like, well, who represents Altadena?
That's right.
And this was a convenient group that was going to toe the party line.
And it is exactly that toes the party line. It is now being used as a rubber stamp to a lot of very questionable at best county decision making and policy. But
by the way, did you see how fast they got 782 through the CRD approved?
Yeah, because apparently meetings were happening all the way back in September, to even well before anyone thought it would go through to actually set up the infrastructure to push it through. Which,
I mean,
again, it begs the question, if you can act that fast, since you already had all the tools at your disposal, and this was a quote-unquote emergency, why the heck didn't you do it in January and February?
because they wanted to get rid of the protest vote.
No, you and I both know why. I'm setting it up for the listener. But
Sorry.
exactly,
All right.
that was it. It was to get rid of the protest vote.
So they
all
can
of
have
this was
the,
to get
the
rid of
SRP
the protest vote. So they
CRD, brought to you by SCE. Sorry for all the
one
acronyms.
one more time for the cheap seats. It's so good.
The SRP CRD, brought to you by SCE. So, I mean, we're talking about our town council, but let's be honest, the 5-seat CRD is going to really run our town.
Yeah.
And 3 of those seats are going to be a supervisory, and then
Yep.
from the supervisors, and then 2 are going to be
They're supposed to
appointed.
be community, but it looks
No,
like
they're going to be appointed.
right, but it looks like those appointed positions are going to be the same rubber stamping lackeys that we see on everything. It's no different than the ARC. So again, it's illusory. I don't know what other word.
Use your illusions.
Yeah, I mean,
We're just doing all these great musical
We are. It's
analogies.
it's not real. You know, it's not meaningful. It's not actually.
But that's the true power. I mean,
it's
as
a puppet body.
But what is the town council? How is it going to work, Sean, in your opinion, with the town council and the CRD? Because, I mean, the CRD
I think the town council is going to be, frankly, as irrelevant as it has been made in a lot of respects. And again, that is not to discredit. I want to be very clear. There are people on that town council, present and past, who have gone in with the best of intentions for the community, who have done their best to actually do things that were meaningful and helpful. And, you know, are generally good people who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, because, you know, I firmly believe that you don't get to complain if you don't participate. And even if you're participating at that level and it's ultimately ineffective, at least you went and did it. You know, I've talked about it before. I've sat on a number of town council committees and subcommittees. I've sat on the land use committee myself. It's important to do the work, to understand how the processes work, to understand how the systems work, and then understand what works, what's working for us and what doesn't, and hopefully to create change. But unfortunately, given a number of variables, it's been really tough to create any kind of change there. And to your point, you know, this thing that was kind of just at the very far at the back of most people's minds, to the degree that like most of these seats historically have been won with like, I'm not kidding, guys, less than 10 votes, sometimes like 2 or 3 votes, even in some cases, uncontested seats that have been won with 0 votes.
Well, you have to show up in person.
Cares, because it's difficult to vote, but people don't know. And even those who know don't care because they perceive it to not be all that relevant. And, you know, I'm frankly one of those people, simply because I know from personal experience and that of the experience of other community organizers, how incredibly effective we are organizing and going directly to the county and circumventing that body, which is, again, not to discredit any of the work that they have done. Some really good work has come out of that, including specifically our CSD that came out of our land use committee, and was the result of years of tireless work on the part of a number of folks.
Were you involved in that land use committee? Oh.
That was before me.
Oh, okay.
I was around and doing work with the town council at that time, but I was not on the land use committee at that time. But a number of people worked on that, including Daniel Harlow, Ed Myers. There were a lot of our Altadena residents who are still in town who worked hard on that, and it's why it's one of the many things that is disheartening to see the county run roughshod on it with SB 9. And
yes,
you know, we're going to save SB 9 for another episode, because what's happening with SB 9 and the finger pointing, it's another Spider-Man meme of like, oh, no, them, no, them, no, them.
Well, I mean, but again, it gets back to this trend of it's not one-offs anymore.
No, it's not. So, you know, with that, this town council election becomes a little bit more interesting. On one hand, could see fewer votes because there's no one there to vote. 22,000 of us are displaced, and we're not even there. It's hard enough to get there in the first place. On the other hand, for those of us who can or who are there, you know, who have a standing home and are still around, or have remained in the area, it may be a little more compelling to vote this time because so many seats are up for grabs, and this is such a pivotal time. There have been some other elections like this where we've seen a big, sea change, where you've had multiple seats go in one election like this. I've seen and heard from folks in the past where they've come in like, hey, all these new people have come in, all this new blood, all this fresh, perspective. great ideas, willingness and desire to bring change, and it never happens because ultimately they get squashed by that system. But there is the energy for that again.
So for those of us that don't know a lot about the town council, what does that limitation look like? How does it get limited? Is because it's purely advisory, correct?
It's purely advisory, meaning but the county does come to it because the county does use it as a rubber stamp. But, the thing to understand is that even when, and I know this from my time in land use and on subcommittees, that even when the town council has, on behalf of the community, opposed something or made a recommendation contrary to what the county has wanted, unless it benefits the county does what they want. So to say that it's advisory is frankly even a bit of a stretch, especially right now. And I think the thing that sat not very well with a lot of folks is that the people on the town council who now have been paraded, by the county because it suits the county, it benefits the county and the machine and the power structure. But they've been parading these folks around like, look at these, folks who are doing this job, who are also survivors of the fire, many of whom, like so many of us, total loss survivors, and parading them around for awards and documentaries and various lunches and dinners and, you name it. To say it's distasteful is a bit of to many, is a bit of an understatement. I understand why people are really bothered by that. It's maybe not the time and the place for that, regardless of your personal loss. But, getting back to it, we have an election. Voting happens, as you stated, in person only, and it happens next week in multiple locations. So people can vote beginning this weekend. You can vote on Saturday, November 1st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can vote on Tuesday, November 4th on Election Day from noon to 6 p.m. And you can vote on Saturday, again on Saturday, November 8th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Where?
There are 6 polling locations. One of them is the Altadena Main Library. You have the Altadena Library at Loma Alta Park. You've got Prime Pizza. We have the Altadena Town and Country Club, which that one baffled me a bit because I was like, wait,
Must
where?
be by the pool.
Yeah, I guess. Because there is no country club?
Well, there's...
yeah. I'm a little gutted by that building. I was not a country club member, but I enjoyed many events there, and I loved going to wine tastings there, and it bums me out that, like so many of our beautiful historic structures, it's gone. But
I had a long conversation with folks there about we don't know what the rebuild's going to look like.
It's painful. But so you've got that, and then the grocery outlet, and then only on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th, another option is also the Bob Lucas Memorial Library and Literacy Center. And it's also, that's an opportunity to go see it if you haven't seen it yet since it reopened. The library district really did a beautiful job with that. So it's very simple that any resident age 18 or older can vote, regardless of citizenship status. Voters need to bring proof of residency. So that could be a driver's license with your Altadena address, a utility bill, a rental agreement, any official mail with an Altadena address on it. This is one of the many reasons why for a lot of us who are displaced, we're maintaining our Altadena addresses, including on our driver's licenses for that reason. And then you can vote. Now, the important thing to know is that you can only vote for your census tract. So you hear me reference my tract a lot on this podcast, my tract of 4602, because 4602's tract is effectively gone. We were one of the hardest hit by the fire.
Yep.
So, it's you need to understand what your tract is so you can see who the candidates are and then decide who you want to go and vote for. But
explain to me the whole, there's 2 candidates per tract.
Correct.
How does that work?
Because there are 2 seats. So there are 2 seats. It's a 16-member council, town council. All right. There's 16 total. There are 8 tracts.
So we have 16 members
Correct.
Representing the town of Altadena, 42,000 people. We have 5 supervisors representing the county.
Correct.
10 million people.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
That
Okay.
math really maths, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah.
I
So
still don't like Measure G, but anyway, that's a different story.
right. And I think that the 5th district shouldn't exist because it's an impossible job, but that's another conversation. So what we have happening and the way this works is that every tract has 2 reps. And within that, with your 2 reps, you've got 1 coming up in every other election. So you're not going to see both seats flip every election. It's staggered. Okay, so you've got 1, and then the next election will be the next. So right now, there are 8 seats open in census tracts 4601 through 4603.2 and 4610 to 4613. Some of the current town council members whose terms are expiring are Victoria Knapp, who is 4601. Actually, yeah, that's right. Kim Yu, that's in my tract to 4602. Dorothy Wong in 4603. John Carmody in 4603.2. And Jafina Musin in 4610. Pat Sutherland in 4611. Reginald Wilkins in 4612. And Sylvia Vega in 4613. And I think, again, what's kind of interesting about that is that all of those seats are being contested. A lot of times the incumbents just keep rolling from one to the next. There are people who've been on that town council for decades.
So there's no term limits.
There are no term limits. And there are also very little oversight. There are, candidate statements are made. MBBA, Neighbors Building a Better Altadena, have been hosting a candidate forum for many, many years, and that occurred yesterday on Tuesday, October 28th via Zoom. It should be available online for anyone to go and see. But again, because the stakes are so low, hard questions aren't asked. There are not a lot of rules around what must be disclosed. And for example, something that came up in our group this week and that kind of blew up was the reality that one of the town council members who is currently up for re-election and who's been on the town council a long time is an SCE consultant. Okay, he works for SCE. And a lot of people were losing their mind over this, and they couldn't believe it wasn't disclosed. They couldn't believe it wasn't in his candidate statement or discussed in the forum. But these are the things that people don't really know about what's going on there because they haven't. There's no incentive to, right? But at the same time, I made the joke, but except it's not funny at all. As I said, if people had any idea how many Trump supporters were currently on that town council, they would lose their minds.
Are we like Huntington Beach?
Not far, to be honest. There's quite a few folks where you'd be like, wait, what? To see one on there, maybe I would go, okay, that's probably maybe a more accurate representation of our demographics. But there are a few. So I would say to everyone, for this one, because while hope is not a strategy, and I'm going to continue to say that because I am a great viewer, reader, advocate of resistance history and understanding, like one of my favorite college classes was one on the Weimar Republic in Germany and exactly how the Nazis managed to wrench control over a democracy with a very clear constitution. And if you want to be terrified, go get into that history because it's playing out right now in this country. But as you dig into that reality, here we are with this. It's, will this be consequential? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But there are very few places where we have any voice or ability to exert any control. So if you have the time, inclination, ability, take a little time. Read through all those candidates. Maybe just, to be honest, if it were me, like I'm going to go through and and really dig in, and then I'm going to make some recommendations in our group. So if you're a member of our Neighbors Only, or those of us, who are all locals as of January 7th, you're eligible to join the group. But I'm going to really dig in and then make some recommendations. But I think that my general advice on this one would be, let's just vote in entirely fresh blood. I'd like to see every seat of the 8 flip. And not because that doesn't mean that some of those people who would lose their seats aren't solid, because, some of them are. They're really good people, good neighbors. But because I think that it's just time for some change. And the only way we're going to see that is to really kind of upset the apple cart in a big way. And if we can flip it completely this time and flip it completely again the next time, who knows, maybe something will change. Or maybe it will just become so incredibly irrelevant that we can demand from the county a better, more effective system that actually does something meaningful for us, because this ain't it.
Uh-oh. Anarchists, here we go.
Well, it's the
Resistance
truth, guys.
history.
It's the truth. So I'm going to give you a quick and dirty on the candidate roster. So everybody running: Brandon Perez, Courage, Morgan Z. Whirlage, Kim Yu, Brandon Smith, Dorothy Wong, Heidi Lust, I hope I pronounced that correct, maybe Luest, John Carmody, Matthew Lorscheider, Anton Anderson, Jose Ortega, Nicole Galvin Ortega, Torrin Joseph Floyd, J.D. Angel, Pat Sutherland, Lori Juma, Reginald Wilkins, Alexandra Kirshner, and Sylvia Vega. Some of those are incumbents seeking re-election. which include Carmody, Vega, and Wong. Personally, I really like Dot Wong. She's done a ton in the area of walking safety, bike safety, transportation issues, public safety, streets issues. But at the same time, again, I don't think it would be bad for us to flip the entire council. So, and that is me speaking as the anarchist. So if you can, get out and make that vote.
So oppose Shauna or oppose the council? Either way?
Either way, do something. Just do something. I don't care what you do something. I'm going to jump into one more topic, and we're going to keep it brief as we get to wrap this episode up today. But I do want to give an update on the Altadena for Accountability Coalition.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I think it's important. So for those who follow, a few weeks back, we had a big press conference after the McChrystal report dropped, and the demand of that press conference and the coalition of community organizations, community leaders has been and remains compelling Attorney General Rob Bonta to initiate an investigation into our fire response with subpoena power. So a real investigation, not the report that we got that is ultimately not all that actionable, even with recommendations and board motions and all of that. It's no different than what happened after the Woolsey fire. Same thing. They got a report. They got a bunch of recommendations. They had motions to enact the recommendations. It didn't happen. So, ultimately it doesn't have teeth. So what the coalition has been demanding is that we have a real investigation because, ultimately what is at the root of this is a civil rights case, and it's a civil rights issue. A black community, a historically black community, was left without evacuation warnings, left to burn, and was just disproportionately impacted. And with that, I want to mention that the organizations that are leading the charge on this, on Altadena for Accountability, include the SE Justice Group, the Black Power Network, and Altadena Rising, which is also a Black-led organization. I am one of the few white folks in the room, to be blunt, which is appropriate. And I'm happy to support, and I lend my support full in every way to this, as does everyone in that room. We're talking about, we actually had some new coalition members joining us this week and are looking to actually, continue to grow what we're doing in the space. And I have to say, it's the one meeting that when these meetings happen and they're long, we meet for 3, 5, 6 hour strategy sessions that are actually effective. I mean, we get so much done and we come out with really clear directives, and we've been very effective, and we're going to keep pushing on that. But I mean, the takeaway for all this is that we're not done with our work. We still have not gotten what we are pushing for, which is this independent investigation and any form of meaningful justice for our community, including and specifically for our Black community that was really left behind on this one. And we're not going to stop until we do. So, Rob, do your job. I think that's the hashtag of our campaign. Rob, do your job.
Well,
and I'm going to say to our other electeds, do your job too. We've had a lot of electeds who are like, oh, hey, I support you. What can I do to help? Let's have a meeting. Oh, dude, you know what the demand is, and you're hanging out with the AG. So if you support this, just tell us, is the AG, compel the AG to do this, or tell us that he's not going to and why.
Well, has this been done before? Have
Absolutely.
other AGs or
Yes.
other
And this
states,
is,
or has it been done here in California before?
And this is what's so maddening, especially since California, we're such again, this goes back to our some previous conversations around being ineffective, and the call coming from inside the house in our own party. California is supposed to be leading the way. And where are we? Lahaina, they managed to do this. Lahaina, in 4 days after the fire, their AG compelled an independent investigation. Meaningful change was made. Their report was dropped 4 months after the fire. Okay?
Was their AG running for higher
their
office?
Investigation. No, they were not.
Okay, just making sure.
I know, right? And you would think that since Bonta is up for re-election next year, he would care.
Yeah, but right now he's unopposed.
Right now he's unopposed, but let's hope someone steps up and we have someone else to vote for, because at this point we will. And I don't care what that other candidate looks like. I would vote for them just frankly to get rid of this, because this level of neglect and inaction is criminal on every front. I don't know how else to put it.
Well,
it's so disheartening and it's gross.
When you brought
this makes me just
When you brought this up to me the other day, and we were texting back and forth on this, this is where I think it's a good indication for Altadena to understand where we stand in this broader context.
We don't.
The Attorney General is more concerned right now about opposing Trump, about the election monitoring, about, whatever the latest Trump-based, National Guard mishigas, as they say in Yiddish, which means crazy. That, they're not really focusing on what really matters, which is what's happening inside the communities. And, this is sort of endemic that we're finding throughout the response at this point. And I've been warning the community that this is what was about to happen, is that we don't matter anymore.
Yep.
And it's sad.
Our time came and went. And we weren't loud. We weren't noisy enough because we trusted people we shouldn't have.
Well, and that's why we're now getting the short shrift on all of this. So I think this is a lesson for the community to understand that, unless you're making it so that they're going to pay attention to us, and I'm not sure what the play is here, to be honest. The politics on this one are, I think it's a no-brainer, but obviously there's not a need for it right now.
Yeah.
And maybe there is. Maybe they're already doing it, and maybe they just haven't told us.
That's what we thought, actually, and I don't know. I would like that to be right. I would like nothing
this
more
is
for
one
that
of those
to be.
I will eat my words if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I have no problem eating my words when I am wrong. I've been
Same, as
married
you
for
know, me
21 years. I know how to eat words.
I'm just okay being wrong because great. I'm happy to learn something. Unfortunately, we're not more often than not, and that's the most disappointing part of it all. I actually hate being right all the time because this stuff really sucks.
This is not the stuff you want to be right
It's
about.
not the stuff that you want to be right on at all. So with that, we're still putting up that fight, and there will be future calls to action for the community to engage in that fight. So stay tuned for that because we're going to be looking to you for it. We are going to keep fighting. I wanted to talk briefly about noise, and I'm going to make it really brief, but and refer people to our group. Here's something that's brewing that you would never think about. We have a noise ordinance in Altadena. It is the LA County Noise Ordinance. It is Chapter 12. Or is it Chapter 8?
Anyone with teenage kids
Forgive me
probably
because I don't
knows
have it in front of me. I don't have
thrown.
the code in front of me, even though I reference it all the time. But it very simply states that construction noise is acceptable and allowed between 7 a.m. and about 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and not on Sundays. There have been some complaints from people who are living on their properties in RVs, trailers, et cetera, during construction, and from neighboring homes where people have had to return to standing homes in the middle of these burn zones, that they are living in constant noise on top of the trash, the violations, the rudeness, the speeding, the illegal signage. It's insult upon insult. And there are some folks who are pushing to change our noise ordinance specifically for Altadena to allow this virtually 24 hours a day. Which, needless to say, has been met with some serious upset that I understand. I'm one of those total lost people. I need to rebuild. I want to rebuild, but I don't want to do it at the expense of my neighbors who are stuck living in that, creating more environmental mess where they have not even a break in the dust. Okay, like if you look at Altadena, even now from the 210, it's a giant dust cloud over the town, and we know what's in that. We know what's in that dust. It's not just silica that you shouldn't be inhaling. So. It's to ask people for people to ask to have one day and a few hours in the evening of peace is not unreasonable. And, I just want to say to everyone, like, we have to get through this together with compromise, with kindness, with community. Like, this is not easy stuff. And this is going to be going on for a decade, folks. We're going to be rebuilding this town for 7 to 10 years. So whatever it is, I'm just going to say as we close this one out, love thy neighbor, one way or another, love thy neighbor. I'm also going to say as we close this one out, if you are, it's Halloween this week. We used to do a big trick or treat map. That was actually one of my pet projects that I loved. If you want that and you're missing it, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen this year. If only because, well, first, the majority of the homes on the map no longer exist. Two, I don't have the energy and bandwidth to do it this week. But what we do have is a thread going in our group of where to go, because there are a lot of standing homes that are really bringing it this year. There are some little block parties. There are a number of things. So head over to if you're a local, head over to the Beautiful Altadena official Facebook group. If you're joining the group for the first time, mention the podcast so that we can vet who you are and get you in and take advantage of all of that information sharing, because it's pretty fucking fantastic. Small business shout out?
Wait, there goes your swear jar. we almost made it through an entire episode.
I don't want to disappoint. So I want to do a shout out for Kismet Rotisserie. And on the same block, their next door neighbor, Leah Ferrazzani, who started out as Semolina Pasta. She actually was just posting on socials that she had, a couple weeks ago, that she was celebrating her 11-year anniversary with posts of her debut and launch at Artisanal LA. And for those who don't know, that was my artisan craft food incubator for more than a decade, from 2009 to 2020. And so it was a bittersweet moment to see that. But again, all of our connectedness in that community. So Ferrazzani's fantastic. She makes local pasta. She makes pasta locally, but also has a number of other provisions, some awesome gelato, some treats.
Oh yeah, her place.
Her shop is amazing. Yep. So that's it. And next door, Kismet Rotisserie, which is fantastic. We have another Kismet Grand Central Market.
And there's one in Burbank.
Exactly. They were getting ready to open and prepping for open just before the fire. And instead of pulling out, which any reasonable sensible person would have done, they decided to stick it out and stand with the community and open anyways. And they did post just after the fire. So they're another one. The food is great. The ownership is great. They've invested in our community. Go invest in them. So those are my shout outs for this week.
We're big supporters of them.
Is Kismet Rotisserie and Ferrazzani's, both on Lincoln. Yep. And also right adjacent, another favorite, Highlight Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, Home State. Gotta love Home State. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to close it out. I'm Shauna Dawson Beer at Beautiful Altadena.
I'm Steve Sachs at the Alta Policy Wonk.
On Substack.
Indeed. And we'll talk to you guys.
We'll see you next time.
All right.